Ginny Robertson, founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine and founder of the On Purpose Woman global community. I'm here with Andrea Hylen for a Writer in the Spotlight interview, where I chat with the contributing writers for the current issue of On Purpose Woman magazine. Andrea, welcome. Glad you're here.
I'm so happy we found a time to do this,
Me too. It's always such a treat to talk with you about your work and your writing. So please introduce yourself to our viewers.
Well, a couple things to know about me. I'm a developmental writing coach who uses somatics and my intuition and experience. And I work with people individually, but I also have an annual incubator that I call an online co-working space for women, cultural creatives who are creating projects and also creating themselves with each layer. I'm also an ancestral lineage healing practitioner. I love that work, integrating that into coaching. And something to know about me is I once had a coach who told me I was a life scientist, and the way that I approach life and use all of the experiences that are happening to try things out. And that means sometimes there are successes and sometimes there's failures, but seeing it all as a gift of being alive on the planet at this time.
Like an experiment. It's all one big experiment, isn't it?
All one big experiment, a game, whatever, however you want to call it. Look at all the puzzle pieces. Yeah.
I love that description for you of life scientist, because didn't you start out in science originally? Weren't you like an epidemiology or something?
I have a background, my bachelor's degree is in social work, but I went right into epidemiological research and was very curious. And it's, it shows up in the incubator for me because I'm always researching a new topic and presenting things. It shows up in coaching with people. It shows up with how I live my life from a intuitive guidance. And you know what, it's funny, just to highlight that for a minute, because I feel like it relates to everyone. But I had kind of a dilemma last week where I was feeling guilty about not doing something with family members. And I had this aha all of a sudden. Like I got to see the bigger picture when I was meditating. And it was like, if I was meant to do that or be at that event, then the pieces of my life would have been orchestrated differently. And it was so freeing to just kind of think about that, the evolution of our lives, and say, oh, that thing that actually happened 20 years ago, where I went that way and they went that way, and these other pieces came in. When you start to look at all the pieces of your life, like it's a play and something's been orchestrated, and you realize, oh, I actually need to say no to that because the other players have things they need to do without me being there. And anyway, so that's part of my approach to conscious self-evolution, to working with my clients, to living my life from that place of seeing the bigger picture and then looking at the pieces to the puzzle that are there.
Wow. I think that bears repeating, because I think so many people watching this can relate to that, the guilt around saying no, or the guilt around not being who other people expect you to be. But say that again about if I was meant to be at this event, what?
Right. That the pieces of getting there or being there would have been orchestrated differently in my life. And the setup comes, it can come weeks, months, years ahead of time, where you realize, oh, those puzzle pieces came into place. And so this isn't I should do this, or I'm feeling guilty for not doing this. Is no, it was all designed for me to be someplace else and to not be in that place. So it was so freeing for a moment. Now, the human part of me kind of went back into the should and guilt at some
Sure.
point, a day or two later. But I was like, no, remember, you saw the bigger picture. It's not, it would have been orchestrated differently.
Oh, I just love that. I'm going to use that for myself because we also, when we're in it, making those previous decisions, we don't know why, but it's a great reminder to trust our intuition that there's
Mhm.
something, it's guiding us to something new, different, whatever. And in looking back, well, oh, I understand now why I said no to that and yes to that. It makes such sense. Where often when women are in your position, I'll talk about women specifically, we tend to try to cram the puzzle piece in, and it's the wrong piece, and we try to shove it in and fit ourselves into what we're supposed to be doing rather than have that flow that you're talking about. If it was meant for me, it would be easy, it would flow, my life would have made space for it. Gosh, I love that so much. We could end right now and I'd be good.
I know. Well, and I'll just say that we kind of jumped into that, and I just went down in that direction. This all really relates to conscious self-evolution.
It does. It sure does.
Because part of the whole premise of conscious self-evolution is being aware of what is happening around you. And I can even tell you that with this particular choice or decision, there was something that happened back in 2004 when my husband was diagnosed with cancer, and then he died 10 months later. But there was a family event that was kind of like the family event of the century. And the weekend of that, my husband had just been diagnosed and he was coming home from the hospital. And so I could not attend. And it devastated me because I am an ancestral lineage healing practitioner. I am a genealogist. That would have been just so delicious and yummy to be there and talk with all the people who had flown in from all around the country. But the universe was telling me something is going to shift with your role in the family. And it wouldn't be until years later that I started to see that I was doing a lot of the spirit work with the ancestors more than going to a wedding to someone who is alive. I mean, that's just an example. It could be any event. And so when you begin to see doors that have closed, where you're like, no, I have to push through to get there. It's like, that door is closed. There is no negotiating that one. Know that those are clues about your conscious self-evolution of where you are being directed. We only have a certain amount of time on the planet. We only have so many things we can do in every day, so many places we can be. So when you start to look at like, I'm trying to get that door to come open. It's like, no, that door was closed. And even if there's shock or sadness or, the human emotions, it's like, just start tuning in with what's next, where you're being guided, where you're being led.
What a perfect way to actually open up this interview, because you are writing a series of articles on conscious self-evolution. My first question was going to be, tell us what that is, but you think you just did a wonderful job of explaining what it is.
Yeah.
And this is the fourth article. The September-October issue is the fourth article in a series of 10s. I can't wait to see where you go with all of these. And the newest one is called Relax, Release, Allow. Now, you also in each article use a code from Barbara Marx Hubbard's book, 52 Codes for Conscious Self-Evolution. Would you say a little bit about Barbara's book and what the codes are and what the specific code 7 means for this article?
Yeah, I mean, Barbara Marx Hubbard was really a remarkable woman who left us all kinds of amazing books and texts and information, but she was a futurist and had an experience when she was, I forget how old she was now, but she had 5 children already. She had given birth to 5 children, and she was on a walk in the woods, and she received this flash of like that we were in an evolutionary process on the planet, and that there would come a time where we would begin to see systems failing and falling apart,
Mm.
and we would rebuild from that. It wouldn't be like an earthquake that ends, for instance, our governmental system, but there would begin to be cracks in the foundation, and we would see them, and there would be more questions, and we would start to rise up from that. And we definitely are in a time where we're seeing a lot of the breakdowns that Barbara had referred to, that she saw back in the 50s. So this book was really a culmination of her work of looking at these codes that start to awaken something in us, the way a caterpillar becomes a butterfly, that there's a point where the caterpillar is in the cocoon and they're being dissolved. Actually, it becomes a soupy mixture, and that something wakes up that the caterpillar wasn't even aware of. You could say they're called imaginal cells, actually. So it's like they didn't exist before. And then in this process of being in the cocoon, those cells start to wake up. And that's what Barbara was referring to, is that these things start waking up in us, and that there's a process of going from that caterpillar to the butterfly, where something dissolves, things start to wake up, and then we are transformed. And I don't think it happens once. I think it happens with humans over and over again. These times where we're letting go of something that no longer works, or we have a shift in our perspective. And so Barbara really takes us through. She has 52 codes. I'm doing a series of 10, and choosing things that are some of the key bridge points to me of where that is. Yeah.
And so code 7 is release your local mind's constant scanning for what needs to be done. What does she mean by local mind?
Well, she's saying, and it's funny because we started this conversation about getting that, like when I got the aha last week of the bigger picture, like to me, I'm connected to a higher self of me, to more of a universal self that can be like not just in the mundane details, which are yummy in itself. I mean, it's like need to chop those onions and put them in the frying pan. But there's this bigger thing that happens, that we tap into our intuition and the higher mind, the higher self, that's not caught up in the smaller things. Like I should be. It is like a local mind can search for those shoulds.
Of just constantly being looking for what needs to be done. What should I be doing? What should they be doing?
Yeah. And I think we've all had that, right? You're like you're in your life and things are happening, and then all of a sudden there's a pause. There's something doesn't happen, and you're like going, wait, I should be doing something. Nothing's happening. It's like, no, your cake is in the oven. There's nothing else to do. It is baking. Like, yeah.
We have to slow down, though. We have to pause.
Mm-hmm.
In this article, you gave 6 tips for this stage of conscious self-evolution. I'd love to go through each of those.
Sure.
Kind of quickly. And if you have you also in the article, you give some wonderful examples of personal stories that tie into these. So if a personal story pops up that you want to share, but what you just said it ties into tip 1, which is create space to pause. Remember your vision. What do you want to say about that?
Yeah, it's, and we all can have different ways of doing this. You might go for a retreat at the beach, and that's your pause. That's your, I'm going to reflect on this vision. I'm going to take time away from everything. But it also can be before you start your day, having a practice of being quiet and not just in the do. of what it is. I know I've been seeing you post pictures from Lake Roland that you have been walking, and that to me is a way of pausing and noticing what's around you and awakening your senses, and just remembering what maybe why you're doing this, and not or emptying, just being empty.
Mm. Pausing is so challenging for so many, isn't it? Just
Mhm.
that, yeah. I know for me, it's been a number of years now, but I know I was kind of afraid to be alone with my thoughts or my feelings because I didn't trust what might come up or what might, so it's easier just to keep doing and keep being on that sort of hamster wheel, because if I slow down, oh my gosh. But pausing, even the word pause, I think when I hear it, I go, ah, because it's not something that's in our vocabulary a lot, I don't think, you
Right.
know?
Well, because how do you measure it in
Yeah,
terms of the value, and we live in such a do productive society. And believe me, I produce a lot and I love it.
yeah, me
And
too.
I know
Me
you
too.
produce a lot,
Mhm.
and it's fun. It's that's really great. But there's that stepping away and really giving yourself some space, or noticing. I mean, I work with writers so much that there's that, and actually we did a panel on this with Connections Over Coffee last week, that's also on the YouTube channel, about getting stuck.
Mhm.
And to me, one of the clues is that at this relax, release, and allow stage is that maybe you're putting some judgment on getting stuck, when what it is it's actually time to take a breath.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I find so interesting in my life is when I pause, I create more. When I pause, I put out more because I'm clearer, I'm energized, I'm rested. And it could be a 5-minute pause, or it could be a day, or it could be a week,
Hmm.
pausing
Hmm.
from, and also I think we can pause from specific things without pausing everything.
Hmm.
I see people post, I'm pausing social media I'll be back in a week or so, just
Uh-huh.
turning off my phone for a day.
Mhm.
So there's all kinds of ways. So I'm telling everyone who's watching this, don't let the word pause put you off, because I think it can.
Mhm.
It's like, it almost feels like an ending rather than a bridge to me. I think it can feel like I'm going to pause that. Well, but are you going to pick it back up again? Maybe not, but I'll have more clarity about that. So I could do this on every single one of these, but I won't talk as much, Nick, for the rest of them because we don't have all that much time. The second tip is you want to prepare. Prepare
It's
for what and how.
I was talking about the universe giving you a message, and to me sometimes that pause, or that feeling like, wait, I'm at the crossroads, I'm not sure where I'm going, is because it's just a time to focus on something else. And that could be because I have a belief that things are happening even in the pause, that like the puzzle pieces are rearranging in some way. And so, maybe you're in a collaboration with someone and they have something else that's going on, and you're like, oh, I'm actually going to go take this workshop today because that's what I feel guided to. And then you realize, you get back and you have the conversation with the collaboration, and you learned something in that workshop that actually made the collaboration go smoother.
Mm.
And you didn't even realize what was happening. But sometimes, like I said, a cake is in the oven baking. Maybe it's time to do the dishes and turn on some music and dance and take a walk in nature, whatever, and just let the project cook on its own.
Pause. Oh,
Mhm. Yeah.
let it cook. So pause and prepare.
Mhm.
Number 3 is think spaciousness.
Again, I mean, when we were talking about pause, it's like, it's something that I say in the incubator, is that women will come in and they're working on a project, And I will be sharing resources. I'll be like, oh, there's this tool, or I've got this page that has all kinds of articles about writing or YouTube videos or whatever. And it's like, do not let any of that distract you from what you're focused on. Like, notice if you think, oh, I need to learn something else because I can't do this thing with it. It's a tricky thing to, but part of it is the research, the experimentation. Follow your intuition with that. But creating spaciousness can actually help you to complete something in a shorter amount of time.
Mhm.
You know?
So true. So true.
Mhm.
Yeah. I don't were you at the meeting Monday night of this week, or were you there yesterday morning? Because this week is
No,
just neither one.
I wasn't at either one
Oh, okay. I was thinking
this week.
I'd seen you more recently, but someone was a featured member that night, Monday night, and she talked a little bit about this book that she was reading and that she was incorporating that, and it's called Unsubscribe or
Mm,
Unsubscribing, something like that. And then she was a featured member again yesterday morning, and she went into more detail. And this book is about unsubscribing to create this kind of space. But it wasn't just from those emails that you no longer want to get. It was unsubscribing from people, unsubscribing from attitudes. It was a wonderful, and I feel like that's what you're talking about. When we
yes.
take those pauses and we're preparing, we need to probably be unsubscribing, or we're doing it even unconsciously. We're
Mhm.
choosing. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah. When you have something I've discovered, and it's funny because I feel like I've like tapped into it in a new way just in the past month,
Mhm.
of recognizing that when there's this practice of, okay, noticing there's something pausing here and creating some spaciousness around it, that there's something that can happen within your body to start to give you clues when you're full, and whether that's reading a book or the amount of people who you've talked with that day, like just that feeling of like, oh, I'm full. I now need to create the spaciousness. And you might think, oh, well, I've had space all day to read and write and, do the things that I'm doing. But there's a point where it is like, I'm done right now. I need to create space.
Mhm.
And that is so yummy to be able to feel that and know that instead of getting into the, I haven't done enough, or I'm not enough, or, which can be, I know that's a story for a lot of us that can
Mhm.
pop up. It's like, no, when you're actually in touch with, so you've created these pauses, which actually I'm kind of jumping into the nourish your creativity place. So, which is the next one, but it is when you nourish your creativity, whether it's through writing, reading, dancing, following your intuition, you start to develop something in your body that gives you clues, as well as the intuition that we might see as coming through our mind into our hearts. That yeah, I don't even know that I need to say anything else about it. I would just encourage everyone to just kind of feel what that is. And so when you let go of the busyness, I've got to do more. Oh no, I need to get another chapter of this book read today, or whatever. It's like, actually keep tuning in to what your body is telling you.
For me, that kind of experience feels like contentment, like I'm content in this moment. And that was a
Mhm,
word that used to frighten me a bit. Content meant settling.
mhm.
I'm just content with my life. I'd hear people say that, but they didn't appear to be content. I was making a judgment, obviously, but it was kind of an excuse for how life was. Well, I'm just content with this. And so I saw it used in ways that didn't feel right for me. But even as you were talking, I was finding myself going, oh, it
Yeah.
feels so good, but it's this contentment, even for just the moment. It could be
Mhm.
just in this moment. I'm content. I'm full. I've had a good meal. I'm full and I'm
Yes.
content. So it can be so
Mhm.
many things. Thank you so much for that. I love that.
Yes.
Oh, I love you share your brilliance. I love you
Mm.
share your brilliance, Andrea. So number 5 is take care of your nervous system. Why does that matter? And how can we do that?
I feel like we have more of that awareness nowadays because of, the pandemic gave us many gifts in terms of this pause.
Mhm.
And one of them was to really talk more about mental health. And our nervous systems are connected with our mental health, and mental health is connected with our creativity. So to me, having some practices where you are connecting with your body, you are connecting with this amazing network of energy that's in your body. And I'll tell you a really simple way that I do that. I mean, I think I listed things like breathe, dance, get in the body a little bit more. But one of the easy ways is I'll start the day with a body scan. And sometimes when I've had a really busy day, I'll pause throughout the day. And all that I do is I close my eyes and I start by focusing my attention on the top of my head. And I just start noticing, is there any place in my body? And I just go down the body, kind of, feeling into it. Maybe I'll say a few words, how are my eyes? How are my ears? How is my nose, my mouth, my neck? Go down. But just tuning into, is there any place in your body where you feel tense, where you feel stress? Is there any kind of feeling in your body where you notice, oh, I'm feeling joy on my left hand right now. Okay, that feels, I like that feeling of joy. And there might be another place where I'm like, oh, I'm feeling a little fear. And just giving it attention, like, okay, I'm noticing the fear. And just noticing things can actually either awaken them a little bit more or give you information.
Mhm.
So just being aware instead of pushing through things, notice, what is my body actually telling me? And so a body scan is just, and you can do it quickly. You can do it you can just, if you do it as a practice, you can do it pretty quickly. You don't have, but it can also be a place to breathe a
Mhm.
little bit, breathe into a space, or notice, okay, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to stretch. I've been on Zoom for 5 hours, whatever that is. So yeah, that's what I feel about that one. Take care of your nervous system.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And, all of these things require the first thing we talked about, which is pause.
Yeah.
So you can take care of all these other tips by pausing, I think. And
Mhm.
and also what you said struck me about, just it just left me. But in that moment, I was thinking, and that's something that I think is so important to do, which is to just be in that moment, and to not force yourself into something else. And that's such learned behavior. You've heard me tell the story about how my mom would never admit to napping. She would say, I'm going to go upstairs and lie across the bed. And she
Right.
would do that. She wouldn't like lay on, she would go diagonally. She had a little comforter she would put over, but to get in the bed in the middle of the day, or to
Mhm.
even pull a pillow out to
Yeah.
sleep
Yeah.
on, it was that there was some shame there that said, that's not okay. This is my job here at home, and I shouldn't be napping. And we see those things growing up, or we hear those things and we take them on, that we think, oh, there's something wrong with pausing, right? There's
Yeah.
something wrong with not doing all the time. And so I think I love that we're in this time where more people are talking about this than aren't.
Mhm.
At least
Mhm.
that's from my perspective. I tend to hang out with those people too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Andrea, our fifth one is rest. And what's the difference between pausing and resting?
Yeah. Well, resting, one of the things to understand about rest, whether it is a nap, whether it's walking through Lake Roland, that is a form of rest,
Mhm.
actually, is that we all need time for integration and digestion. And so you might think of digestion as being connected with eating food in your body. Your body is digesting, using the fuel. But there's also when you have different experiences in your life, any experience you are having, it's actually something you're integrating, you're bringing into your life. Like every experience changes you. You know, when you went to see Bruce Springsteen, that concert, it changed you.
Mhm.
There was something that it brought into your life that you had not experienced before going to that particular concert with the particular people around you and all of that. And so when you have any kind of experience like that, like even us talking today, like I've created a little bit of space after to just be with what got stirred up or shared here. And that's the digestion.
Mm.
That is the rest. I know that I've gone through certain periods in my life where I've really needed a nap every day because there's so much shifting in my life. And maybe there are things I'm uncovering about myself, and I'm like ready to have a bigger voice in the world. Maybe I'm letting go of some old beliefs that I had or an old pattern, like just giving yourself some time to rest your body, rest your mind, rest your soul. Yeah.
Mm. Let's see, I had a question and a comment. Where did it go? This whole idea of digestion,
Mhm.
non-food digestion.
Yeah.
I think that explains to me why in my early days of seeking personal growth works, dipping my toes into spirituality, I was constantly in this learning mode. I was constantly reading. I was constantly going to seminars, and I gave very little time for integration and digestion.
Mm,
And
mhm.
I kept seeking because it was like, well, that didn't work.
Yeah.
Didn't give it an opportunity to work. Does that
Mhm.
make sense?
Absolutely. And that's a great example because you're integrating a new idea into
Yeah.
your life. And so you need time to practice with it. It's not
Mhm.
just, oh, read the book, I've got it all down. Like,
Right.
no, how is that? How are you going to bring that into your day-to-day life? And then the digestion can be very much a physical experience of need to, yeah, it's funny. Sometimes I'll think, just recently I was reading something and I was like, whoa, I just have to stop. Like, that is an idea I never thought about before. And I need time
Mm.
to like feel what that is, to let the cogs of the wheel spin in my mind and to actually bring it into my body in a new way. Yeah.
That happened to me recently too, where it's like it just hit me between the eyes. Oh, whoa, that's
Mhm.
brilliant. And I've never looked at anything like
Yeah.
that before, whatever they were talking about. And I couldn't tell you right now what it was if I wanted to, but I remember it somewhere else. I also did some writing on it. So I know I can go back to it. But Andrea, thank you. Thank you so much. And what do you want to tell our viewers about what you have going on? You mentioned the incubator, and how can they find out more about that?
Yeah, you can go to my website, andreahylen.com. The incubator is something that I offer once a year, and it runs from, actually, I just opened the doors to the secret Facebook group today, and registration is open until November 6th. And then we close that, and women are working on creativity projects, books, blogs, developing programs. And I work with them through individual coaching, and there's a small community. I always keep it a small group of women. So there's a little more intimacy in the group and support. And then that runs until February 29th. So go check it out and share it with others because I have a few more openings for that.
Yes, check it out. I have participated in a few of your incubators, and they always bring me something. And I go in not expecting anything specific because that's how you roll.
Yeah. I mean, it's
You know,
incubating. It's,
yeah,
I
exactly.
am a producer. I do produce a lot, but
You do.
sometimes women come in and it might be a couple of years of working on a book, and they keep coming back in to do the next layer and uncover things that come up for them. And I just want to say too, I really am having my mind blown about, I always choose a topic that I put information into the group around. It's an energetic, but this flip the script, consciously co-creating your future, just topics are popping up that I wasn't even thinking about writing about. And then all of a sudden I look and there's 3 books on my bookshelf, and somebody shares a podcast, and I'm really having fun flipping the script already and just taking another look at something. I mean, last week I went down a rabbit hole around water. I was like, I wasn't thinking about writing about water, but there's a lot of really cool stuff that we've learned about the element of water. And so anyway, I'm excited to share that too. And it's not to distract anyone from the project they're working on. It's just
Right. I mean,
there.
you say you offer a lot, but it's all optional.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, Andrea's website is also in the text of this video, andreahylen.com. You can also read Andrea's article and her previous articles in our archives. If you go to On Purpose Woman magazine on my website, that is also in the text of this. So, Andrea, what do you want to leave us with? What are your final thoughts about this topic?
Well, there's a part of me that wants to just be in silence with you all so I'll encourage you for that, that when you have finished these last few minutes, just pause and notice what you're feeling in your body, and don't try to grab for anything, just be with it. Yeah. So thanks, Ginny. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about it.
Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your experiences in the magazine, and also I'm here with us today. And I want to thank anyone else who's watching this on Facebook Live or the replay on our YouTube channel. Again, to read Andrea's article, as well as other inspiration for your mind, body, spirit, and business, visit our website, opwgc.com, and click on the magazine. And that direct link is in the text of this video. You can also find Andrea's first 3 articles on this topic in our magazine archives on that webpage. Thanks again for watching, everyone.